Thank you again. Okay, after we talked about love, I'm going to talk about murder. The turbulence of murder and wanting to murder the one you love. It always come about that there's somebody that you love so much that murder might be the only way to get rid of them. So now you have to think back, what's going to happen if I do this? What's going to happen to me? And how am I going to do this? Just to let you know, antifreeze, they've added water and color and taste to it. So don't try to poison the person. All right? Don't try to take them for a walk and throw them off a cliff and then throw some rocks on and then yell, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Because that's not going to work. And then it's the risk of getting caught. It's a big risk of getting caught. So, or maybe you want to get caught. And I thought about it and I said, am I jail material? Will I be able to live in jail? And then I remembered there was a show called Orange is the New Black.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the jailhouse rock of all the women. So I said, I was ready. I'm ready for the jailhouse rock. I'm ready to find out about me. I'm ready to find out if they deliver. Because, you know, Uber Eats, y'all know Uber Eats. Do they deliver to the jailhouse? I don't know, but I'll find out. But, am I going to be able to make phone calls and things? I may not want to. I may not want to call anyone because I finally got a chance to hear myself think. This is a wonderful place, jail. I love this. It's a great place to be. And then I think about what I left behind. I left behind a house, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a living, a dining room, a kitchen that had to be cleaned. In jail, I got a cot, a bathroom, and a sink. That's a quick white food. So I'm good with that. I'm very good with that. And then I think, oh man, they got family day. Family can come visit. Do I need family to visit me? I'm having such a good time. I'm by myself. I can read all my books. Nobody is bothering me. You know, I got free time when they give it to me, which is normal anyway. And I say, oh, family time in jail. That's a certain time. So everybody got to go home. And if you know my folks, they're always late getting there. So they'll be leaving out sooner than need be. And as I lay there thinking how wonderful all of this is, I hear someone says, Joan, how did this happen? Joan, what happened? How did this happen to you? And I open my eyes and I look up and I see doctors all around me. And they're saying, what happened to you? My lip is busted. My eye is popping out. And I looked at them and I said, I walked into a door. And the doctor looks at me and says, you walked into a door? And I said, yeah, sound good to me. So they said, well, we're going to have to give you stitches. We're going to have to find out if your head is messed up by walking into the door. And every time someone came into the room, they said to me, what happened to you? And I said, I walked into a door. I walked into a door. So they wheeled me into a room. where the doctor was going to come give me stitches. And I'm laying there and I'm waiting. And in the room comes a nice elderly man. And he's cleaning and he's picking up. And he looks beyond me. And then he looks at me and he says, "What happened to you? Did your boyfriend hit you in the mouth for talking too much?" And I looked to see where he was looking. And behind me on a bench sat the person who brought me to the hospital. Sat the person who cared for me when he saw that I was bleeding. Sat the person who, the father of my children, the man who takes care of me, the man who's always there with me, and he's sitting behind me. And I looked back. And then I turned and I looked at the elderly man. And I told him, "No, my husband did this to me. I would not allow a boyfriend to do this." And so he looked at me. And I said, "Yes, we were fighting. And I was trying to get away. And as I ran to reach for the door and get the door, he grabbed me. The door hit me or he hit me. I'm not even sure which way it came. But what I need to tell you is right in that minute of talking to this man, the murder disappeared and the love came in for the person who was there with me." Now that sounds strange. And it sounds like something no one else would understand or want to go through. But love is stronger than anything that anyone can say to you, especially when you're going to defend the person who did it to you. And it's a sad time at that moment, my love, because this man was going to take me back home and he was going to put me to bed and he was going to feed me and he was going to see that I was clothed and comfortable. And that was his love and my love connected together. And I didn't want that to break at that time. So the turbulence and the rawness of love is when you really, truly, and love so deeply that the truth comes out. And as the truth comes out, different truth replace it, and you grow yourself inside. You become who I am today, being loving and caring, and also being loved by someone else, because I learned what love was all about. So, yeah, murder. As I laid there thinking what I was going to do was wiped away. And it will always be wiped away in your life by love. Just give it a chance. Thank you.
I'm going to follow that talk. Okay. Thank you, Reverend Joan. You are amazing, my friend. So, the turbulence of love. So we say in Science of Mind that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Yet when we talk about love, we focus on the human aspect of it, don't we? All that goes wrong, all the turbulence. So I asked my granddaughter this week, I told her what the topic was. I said, "What do you think about that?" She said, "Grammy, if there's turbulence, be sure you get a good seat on the plane." So there's wisdom in the young, isn't there? So isn't that what it's all about in love? Finding a good seat, finding a place of comfort, finding a place where we can be ourselves and still engage with somebody else on a very significant level. I know in my 81 years, I've had a few experiences of love. Maybe we can have some time for conversation after the talk and we can share about that. But I do know that my very first relationship with a woman lasted for a minute, maybe a week, maybe a month. But go ahead, ask me how long I mourned it. A long, long time. Until I was having a massage with somebody that my chiropractor had recommended. He had been a dancer in the old Met Ballet Corps. And we were not talking about relationship, I promise you, came out of nowhere. You know those conversations where all of a sudden somebody says something to you, that ding, 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 bell went on, light went on. And he said to me, I had a relationship and then it ended. And he said, I mourned it for a long time. He did not know what was going on in my mind. I promise you, we didn't talk about it. And he said, and then I learned, he said, then all of a sudden one day, he said, okay, next. And we move on. So I'm going to share with you what Corinthians says about love. Corinthians says, love is patient and love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking or self-serving. It is not easily angered. Yeah, where were we when that was going on? We're in the middle of, they did something and we got, what? You gonna murder them?
Yeah.
Ah, thank you. So it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. Wish that it were so. So, in concluding today, I'm going to share with you something I found on vacation this past week. I'm calling it Interview with a Mermaid. And the interviewer says, why do you visit the shore so often? The mermaid says, because I am a mermaid. Interviewer, you lived out there in the wild sea. Mermaid, I did. It's where I learned to swim. The storms, they taught me courage. And the calm, it showed me joy. And the bottom, the very bottom, deep, deep down underneath, the interviewer says, oh, yes, I've been there too. So far, sometimes I thought I'd never see the sun again. But that's the sweet thing about darkness. It helps you find your own light. Sadness, then. There's sadness out there, or can you swim from it like you can't here on land, said the interviewer. No one can hide from their sadness, no matter how fast they move. But the ocean taught me to welcome it. And I now love it, and like an old friend, I greet it. It only ever visits to remind me how wide and how vast I've loved. So the interviewer says, what about beauty? The kind that stirs in your chest, makes you feel alive. Can that be found out there too? Mermaid answers, oh, that exact kind, yes. And once you burn to the bottom, you've learned to befriend your own grief. The beauty seems to show its face in nearly everything you see. Interviewer asks, so then why, with all that it's given you, with freedom and clarity and thankfulness and bliss, would you live and live here on land? And the mermaid said, because, as anyone who's ventured out far enough knows, once you find peace in the ocean, you want to make the world a little more like the sea. Interviewer says, will you ever return then, back out to your home? Mermaid says, someday I will. I'm sure of it, when I'm finished sharing what I can. But until then, I'll visit the shore. Interviewer says, because you're a mermaid? Yes, because I am a mermaid.
Oh, there we go. Boy, I have to look at myself while I'm doing this. It's very interesting. All right. So when I learned that the topic was turbulence in love, I had to return to a chapter of my life that I affectionately call Bill the Bouncer. So when I was in my late 20s, I was frequenting a club that was on the Lower East Side, and there was a bouncer there. And I'm telling you, from the moment that I saw him, it was like I was struck by lightning. I had never seen anything so beautiful in all my life. All 6'5" of it. And I thought that he would never be interested in someone like me. And so when he asked me out, I thought that I had won the lottery. I couldn't believe it. I was head over heels, madly in love with him. And we were dating for not very long when he moved in. Now, as the woman I am now, would recognize that as a red flag. Okay. But back then, it was like someone was waving the red flag and I was a bull charging through it. Very, very different. I was like, full steam ahead. Sounds like a great idea. And we had an extremely turbulent relationship. Fighting on, off, up, down. I recognize now that we were in a trauma bond, that we came with our wounded selves, and those wounded selves matched up very well. But it didn't make for a very, very peaceful union. And so one day he went to work in the city and he never came back. Now, and I never spoke to him again. Now, I want you to know, he did not fall into the Hudson River. He was not kidnapped by aliens. Okay. He left and never returned, including leaving all of his junky stuff in my 1-bedroom apartment. And I went into this period of grieving. And so I had already been introduced to new thought practices and principles, and I had frequently, gone to the Unity Church that was in Montclair, where I was living at the time, where I still live now. And in that enormous grief and in that suffering and in that feeling of deep abandonment, it was the turning point for me to go to divine love. Because the suffering was so great that I couldn't imagine ever going through something like that again. And so I went and I studied and I practiced and I meditated and I prayed. I also went to therapy and dealt with my issues. But what happened in all of that is that out of this greatest pain came a love that could not be taken away, in which I could not be abandoned, in which I would never be rejected from. And when that became my inner presence, all the subsequent relationships were different. They didn't have that enormous amount of importance. They didn't have that pressure to make me and my life okay, because that was already coming from deep inside of me. And so it ended up being one of those turning points where I recognized that I was divinely made and that it wasn't that I wasn't good enough for him. It's that I was on a higher level than he could even acknowledge. And that there was a reason why that divide between the vibrations that we were operating on was too great of a gap. And so it was one of those things that made me recognize that love was within me. And you can read about something like that, and people can tell you, have to love yourself, and until you love yourself, no one else is going to love you, right? We've all heard it. It's the mantra of 1,000 talk shows. Okay. We see it on memes now. It shows up all of the time. But until we practice love, doesn't really mean anything. It's like trying to explain what a rainbow looks like to somebody who does not have vision. It's in the experiencing of it. It is in the practice of it that we show up and we start to vibrate out a frequency that helps us align with the love of God. Because God looks within us, from us, at us, and all around us, and sees only good. Sees only good. And when we make another person our God, we will be bound to be disappointed. Right? We will be bound for them not to be able to measure up, because that's not what another person can do. It is the divine that lives within us that's able to do that. And so what I'm going to encourage everyone out there to do is, when you find yourself in the turbulence of love, to turn away from what is showing up, to turn away from the discord, the conflict, the disagreements, the dishonesty, the pain, and to turn back within to the love that lives within us, and to find that as your life preserver, to find that as that which you can hold on to, that will not disappoint you or let you down. And then when you make that your primary relationship with your higher power of your understanding, with love itself with the capital L, all your other relationships fall into alignment with that primary relationship. And any time in my life when it gets off, when something is showing up as discord with another person, I am looking for, where have I stopped making love my primary relationship? And as soon as I return to that, peace, a resolution, a different outcome becomes available. So that's my message for you all today. And thank you for joining us. I've got some announcements.